What's happening, party people? This is Pete with Backdraft Videos, and we are here. What in the wide world of sports are we looking at? It's a Triumph Speed Triple 2019, and it is the RS, which is amazing. This is probably the ultimate bike on my wish list for street bikes, and I've always wanted to drive one, and today my dreams are coming true. Thank you to my friends at Paul Bluin, Triumph, Mazda, etc. These guys are awesome. This bike is probably my ultimate street bike of all time. So many things about the new 2019 model just make me go yeah, such as the insane amount of carbon fiber all over the bike, but also some of the specs. 148 horse. You heard me. 148 horse, which means 8 horse since the last revision. Still kicking it with the 1050cc triple, so that's exciting. How did you get 8 more horse out of it? That's what I want to know. And it lost weight. Gorgeous. This has got the Aero exhaust package on it. It still has the jet airplane tail fin, so I would cut that off and put some sort of fender eliminator on it. But single-sided swing arm, beautiful looking Aero carbon fiber embellished cans. It's a 2 to a Y pipe back down to a single and then off to the triple header. We've got everything blacked out, which is the way it should be. Yes! And including the forks, which is super cool. We're rocking Öhlins, but they're black. They're not that gold color they always use, so that's super cool. Öhlins also in the back. Everything's fully adjustable. Got the bent radiator, so that narrows the profile. The brakes on this are also, I've been told, look out. They're brand new. Everything on them is new, supposedly. Carbon fiber fender, but also the side piece is also attached to the fender is carbon fiber, so that looks super cool. Carbon fiber side panels instead of the red plastic from the other one. And then the adjustable suspension on the back here is really nice too, as you can see. Very adjustable even with gloves on. So I like that. I like this setup. They've been doing this on the Speed Triples. It makes it nice and easy and quick and fast, especially if you throw somebody on the back. Let's give it a spin. First, immediately, you'll notice the gauges. These are Triumph's new TFT gauge setup. Lots of different options you can do. I'm not totally crazy about the way the tachometer looks on this, but, you know, it is what it is. There's a couple different ways they run the tach too. If you go into track mode, it's a little different. Cruise control standard. Same button array that all the new Triumphs are coming with. You got your high beam trigger switch. One thing that's really cool about this is a automatic fork lock. If you have the bike off and the handlebars to the side, you just push that and it will lock it. And once you walk away from the bike, it stays locked. If you get close to it and you try to start it, it will unlock the bike again. So that's kind of a pretty cool, ingenious little thing. So let's give this baby a whirl. Come to daddy. Immediately you hear that very familiar triple whirling noise, and the clutch releases right off the bottom, so that's kind of nice. Speed Triple riding stance as well. You're pushed forward, feeling nice. We're gonna go, I want to go up the highway, but we're gonna go this way first. Okay, so what I feel immediately getting on this bike is the suspension is a lot stiffer than the last one I rode. Of course, RS, that's our top of the line sport bike that Triumph's going to make. I'm pretty sure this is the creme de la creme of Triumph's power in your face bike line, the Speed Triples. So as you can feel, it's amazing. The sales rep told me, my good buddy Dave, he said third gear just roll onto it, and he said you'll feel it come on around 4,000, which is what I just did. I'll do it again. And you can feel it immediately kick in. Much smoother than the last model that I rode, which is 2016. Still a 1050, but different programming, different mapping. And of course this one does have 8 more ponies. 8 more horsepower. That's the same amount of horsepower my boat has. And they just updated the motor, so that's amazing. This riding position on this bike is slightly different than the 2016, the prior model, because I am actually sitting up a little bit more than the other one. The seat feels a little different. It's pushing me towards the tank as well, but I'm sitting more upright on this bike, whereas the other one I was a little bit more leaning over, a little bit more. The note of this engine too sounds similar to a plane that's crop dusting. You hear it? This is the factory Aero silencers. They do have the removable dB killers, so without those, this bike would probably get your attention rather quickly. So again, as far as road manners go, initial impressions, the bike is very lightweight, very flickable. It feels light in the hand, as they say, and it should, because that's what Triumph wants with their sport bikes, obviously. My leg position crunched right up, as you would expect on a sport bike. Actually, this bike is my leg is a little bit tighter than the last model, so I'm probably at 110 degrees bent. I do really like the display though. It's very easy to read and see, and there are a lot of different modes of viewing as well. I'm not gonna really mess around with that driving. I don't think that would be a safe idea unless I really want to buy the bike. Go ahead. Trying to get me to do a wheelie. I don't do wheelies. What are you talking about? And I just did a wheelie. So this bike has an extremely good amount of power off the line. I can feel the difference in between the two engines. I really can. It's rolling on the throttle. You feel the front wheel get loose. So that's a nice feeling if you're anticipating it. If you're not, I would be scared. I have sometimes people in the comments will say, hey, is this a good bike for me to start out with? I would definitely say this is not a good bike for you to start out with, because it might be your last bike if it's your first bike. I don't know if you can hear the exhaust note, but it's rather pleasant if you get onto it. It sounds good, but cruising, it's not obnoxious. Very pleasant to listen to. So again, as far as road manners go, up here in northern New England, we do have a lot of bumpy roads, and they're not always well taken care of. So to me, when I'm looking for a bike, I always want a bike that's going to be well suited for the bumps. Of course, we want handling, so there's a fine line between something that's going to handle really well and something that is really comfortable and cushy. And I would say this bike leans more towards handling than cushy. Just even these small ridges in the road, it's hard to see on camera, but the bike does pitch a little bit when you hit them. That being said, if you're watching this video and you're in South Florida where everything is cement, or you're in an area where there's a lot of really good roads, I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it. This is going to be hard to get out of here. And there's a police officer right there. Thank you, sir. Hello. Hello, fellow riders. Alright. That was nice. That lady let me out. Not all Chevy Suburban owners are mean. Alright, so again, riding along, we got a little bumpy, choppy noises here. So the bike doesn't wash out over the bumps, and the ones I just went over were medium, but it does affect the handling, so I would be cautious, very, very cautious as far as going into a corner with this bike at a high rate of speed with the suspension loaded and then hitting a bump. You probably would wash out somewhat. You'd have to be really on your A game. I think back to when I owned a Speed Triple and I rode it a lot. I was always very careful watching the road, scanning the road to make sure that I wasn't going to hit a bump in a corner. And if I was going to hit a bump, I was anticipating it. So I think this bike kind of lives on that same line where if you hit bumps, you could have an issue. However, again, going back to my South Florida comment, if you're in an area that's well built and you don't have a lot of inclement weather to destroy the roads, this bike would probably be fine. You probably wouldn't have an issue with it. Ugh. But up here, and in a lot of places in America, you've got pretty junky roads. And across the pond as well, in England and those areas, some of the road situations are not the greatest. I enjoy my Scrambler XE because of the torque and the power curve, but I will say that I do miss the power bands on these triples, and I've always kind of felt that way when I gave up my Speed Triple and I went to a twin. It was just a different riding experience. Hey, there's the dealership. Guess what? I gotta come down here really quick. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna go up the turnpike and exit. I want to see what this feels like without breaking the law. So brakes are very good on this, although the brake travel on the front lever is a little bit longer than I would have anticipated. Of course, those are completely adjustable, so that's just a preference. I could set that up, but not bad at all. I've got a guy on a purple thing. Well, as far as being flat-footed on the ground here, this bike isn't bad. I think the seat height is right around 32 inches. Those Hondas actually are pretty fun to ride. A friend of mine had one, and I think it was a 929RR. Pretty powerful, pretty powerful. It looks like he's done some work to that. It's got a shorty arrow on it. Not sure, again, about the color scheme with the green and the purple, but, you know, to each his own. My comments are about to blow up in the comment section. I can feel it. All right. This bike is definitely wanting you down into the tank. It's pushing me. I feel myself just being pushed right into the tank. So that could be conducive to a long ride. It might be a little difficult to deal with, but all right. So I'm just gonna go north one exit, and I like the on-ramp test, if you will. I like to be able to get on the on-ramp and roll onto the throttle to feel it. I've got people behind me and people in front of me though, so one feature this has is what they call a quick shift. You don't have to use the clutch. I say that's just being lazy. Yes! But I think it has synchros in the training. I'm not exactly sure how it works. Here we go. That's insane. Yeah, I would die if I owned this bike. Wow. So what I just experienced was a pooping of the pants. What I just experienced. This bike has a ton of get up and go. It's got torque. It wants to give, but the suspension is nice because you don't feel the bike getting sucked down into the power band. The suspension holds the bike nice and level, and the power at about 4,000 RPMs. Again, the salesman was right on the money. You hit it and you're like, oh, there it is, and then it just keeps going and going. It's like the everlasting gobstopper. I'll say the wind is definitely pronounced because this is a naked bike, but it's not ridiculous. I think that's due to the riding position being slightly pitched forward. So I just went over those two bridge seams. The first one I wasn't really paying attention to. So when I went over it, I did get the little wobble on the front end. So this bike is more road track manner. It's well pronounced. I bet you could change the suspension on this bike a little bit and get it exactly where you want it to be. I bet you if you softened it up a little, it would be more conducive to riding on the more bumpier roads, and then if you cranked it up a little bit, you could get there on the track. I just gotta bang a U-turn here so I can get back on the highway, and there's no turn on red, so I gotta wait. So immediately just driving maybe about 5 minutes or so, I can feel the inner thigh muscles on my leg. There's kind of a little bit of a pinch point on the seat. I'm 6'4", so again, I'm a little tall, but I think anybody, that area where your weight hits the seat, you're going to feel that after a couple minutes. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but if you're buying this bike to go tour the Trans-Canadian Highway, it might not be something you want to do. There is a pillion seat on the back of this, which is nice because you could put like a day pack on that. You could strap a day pack down on it. But as far as the passenger, one of the motorcycle magazines I was reading about this bike when it came out says, quote, it's the I'd rather you not take a passenger seat. So it will allow you to take a passenger, but I don't think it wants you to. Tight turning circle too. I kind of like that. That's kind of nice. So I'll stand up a little. Ooh, there we go. I have back issues, lower back issues, and I don't mean to sound like an old man whiner here, but specifically in my tailbone, I'm very, very careful about what bikes I ride long term because it's just not comfortable. And this bike would be difficult for me just because of the way the seating position is. This seat I think is better than the 2016 seat, but both of them aren't really that good if you're susceptible to those lower back issues. I think the big issue with that too is the fact that it's pushing you down into the tank. It's hard to see. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but like pretty much my belt buckle area is right touching the tank. And again, this is a sport bike, so that's what they do. They're designed to do that. But as far as a long-term touring type bike, or if you wanted to take like a ride, I would say probably greater than an hour, you might find it be getting a little uncomfortable because of the position. I can keep my arms straight out, and that does alleviate some of the pressure, but the natural position that my arm wants to be in is about a 35-degree angle. So you can feel it. Well, you can't feel it, but I can feel it. It's got snap. Off the line, it's a little slow. It's a little, the lower RPM is a little, hold on. There you go. Off the line, it's a little bit slow, almost similar. I call it the turbo spooling effect, but it's not as pronounced on this engine. I'm not sure what they did to the engine, because the 2016 model, it was really there. This one, it's not there as much. It's a totally different feel. You don't have the total lag. The other one, when you rolled on, it would go and take off. This one, it's still there, but just a little bit. It's not like it's hanging out waiting to catch up. You can even hear it just in the rev. The clutch is nice on this too. I'm not sure if it's a different style clutch, but boy, right off the bottom release, it's nice. I'm gonna kind of go slow here. I was hoping to. I'm gonna let some people go by. So we're gonna take off from the stop start right here. There we go. This is a rocket ship. It literally is like I'm sitting on a rocket. A little vibey at the higher RPMs, but manageable for sure. And if you have the RPMs up above 4,000 on this, I'd say right around 5,500 where I am right now. That's a sweet spot. I mean, you feel that? It's like it wants to. Yeah, definitely the fastest bike I've ever ridden as far as power. It just wants to continue giving. Right about 5,500 RPMs highway speed, and that's seems like there's a lot of power. I don't know if you can hear it in the camera or feel. You can't really feel it, but can you hear the lag? It has a little bit of lag right off the bottom, rolling on. But I mean, if I was to put this in a higher RPM, so I'm in fourth. No lag at all. Zero. It's almost like there's negative lag. Yeah. Daddy like very much. Daddy could never own though, because if I did, again, I think there'd be warrants. And you have the right to remain silent. Yeah, very nice. I really don't know how a passenger would work on this, to be honest. It's so tight, and you'd probably lose them as soon as you get on it. That was a second gear wheelie. I totally lost steering when I got on it there. You could feel the lightness. That's, again, and this bike has a tremendous amount of traction. The traction control never came on at all on that takeoff, which was amazing. Of course, traction control on these bikes, you know, works off the wheel speed sensor. It sees wheel slip, and it just retards the throttle because it's a drive-by-wire. There's no cable here, right? So, you know, you get wheel slip and you'll feel it in the throttle. It'll just kind of, not the case here. Not the case at all. Very well mannered though with the amount of power this has. you'd think that it wouldn't like it to just, you know, putt along, but it does. It's very manageable. I was kind of thinking back to a two-stroke dirt bike where it just, if you're not in the power band, you can't really drive the bike. But this bike seems to have a very gracious low end, which is nice for being around town. And then when you get into a situation where you need a little power, like that, it's like, yeah, okay, you like, I give it to you. You like the juice? Wow, my overall impression of this bike is dangerous, but amazing. It's an adrenaline machine. Again, I don't know if I would want to totally take this bike out as a cruiser, but around town, this bike would be a lot of fun. Hey, there's the man himself, Paul Bluen. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you found it enjoyable, I would really appreciate a comment. Smash the like, subscribe button, all that jazz, and be safe.